After some more thinking, I determined a theory of the device. The device could be a beam swung by one end, the handle, having a platform attached to the other end. The platform could support a golf disc or flying ring while it was being forced and torqued by the swinging beam. I made a drawing of a prototype of the device that could be constructed from wood, nails, screws, and glue. That means it's time for construction. Now, French constructing is a little bit like French cooking, usually a delicious surprise. So, the ingredients. You see the wood pile? We need just one good piece of wood to make the disc whip. Then we have nails, screws, glue, and most important, the secret ingredient. So we have our pan, we have the nails, the screws, the glue, and our secret ingredient, which I'm not going to show you. We don't want to put in too much, we don't want it to explode, eh? Now we mix it. Too much. I redo it. This gray gas released by the explosion will soon make the grass turn brown and the sky turn gray, but it's only temporary, so don't worry, it will be okay. Now I'll remix the ingredients and then we'll continue from there. A few minutes later, it's mixed. Now we swirl it. While we are waiting for the liquid to evaporate from the mixture, we'll go to the wood pile and pick out a piece of wood that looks like a disc whip. This one looks like a disc whip. Now, with the liquid all evaporated, we can spread our mixture on the piece of wood. Then we leave it to set for a while. A while later, and now we sledgehammer. A few minutes later, it worked! The disc whip is now constructed! Surprisingly delicious! So, I determined a theory of a device. Now, here's a reality of the device, a disc whip prototype. This back part is the beam. The handle is an extension of the beam. This front part is the platform. Here's a theory of how it will work, assuming I'll fling from a standing position. I'll hold the disc whip by the handle, roughly horizontal, pointing in the direction opposite the direction I want to fling. I'll place a golf disc or flying ring in the start position here, supported by the platform and touching the beam. I'll swing the disc whip, keeping it roughly horizontal, so the golf disc or flying ring is supported by the platform, forced by the beam in the direction I want it to go, and torqued by the beam to roll along the beam until it leaves the disc whip at the release position here with the speed and spin I imparted to it. Here's a reality of how it works. At this time, I've tested this disc whip only by trying to fling some golf discs and a small flying ring to land on the floor here a few meters away. It flings. Now that's a disc whip. During my testing, I observed two problems. Problem number one, it only flings from the left. I think I can solve this problem by having another platform on the top, so when it's turned upside down, it can fling from the right. To do this, I'll have to have the height of the beam increased so discs of all heights will fit between the two platforms. Problem number two. Some discs supported on the platform are not level with the platform. When I look at this disc edge on, I can see the lowest part of the disc is the bottom of its inner rim. The front of the platform is supporting the bottom of the inner rim, but the back of the platform does not extend to the bottom of the inner rim, so the disc is supported but not level with the platform. I think I can solve this problem by having the back of the platform moved frontward enough to support the bottom of the inner rim of all discs. When I swing this disc whip, it feels solid, compact, and not too heavy. I think I can increase its length to gain more distance over which to apply force. This will make the platforms longer, and I think they'll require some bracing.
So, what I think the inventor fella's saying is, heh, that's not a disc whip.
After some more thinking, I made a drawing of a second disc whip prototype having those changes. So, it's time again for construction! So, we pick out another piece of wood, one that's going to look like disc whip number 2. This is it. This is the one.
A few minutes later,
It's finished. Disc whip number 2 is constructed. Here's disc whip prototype number 2, which is intended to be better than disc whip prototype number 1. It has two platforms, one above and one below a central beam, so it can fling both from the left and from the right. The back of each platform is frontward enough from the central beam to support the bottom of the inner rim of all discs. So any disc supported on a platform is level with that platform. And it's longer, so there's more distance over which to apply force. At this time, I've tested this disc whip only by trying to fling some golf discs and a small flying ring to land on the floor here a few meters away. It flings.
now that's a disc whip.
During my testing, I observed three problems. Problem number 1. This disc whip is heavier and has more air resistance than disc whip prototype number 1, and I'm concerned its two lightweight platforms could be easily broken. I think I can solve this problem by, instead of having one heavyweight beam centered between two lightweight braced platforms, having one slightly heavier unbraced platform centered between two more lightweight beams, reducing both weight and air resistance. Problem number 2. Having more weight of platform frontward from the beam makes this disc whip torque downward at the front more, which I'm having to counteract by continuously oppositely torquing the handle upward at the front more to keep it from rotating. I think I can solve this problem by having the handle moved frontward from the beam and by having the platform extend less far frontward from the beam, so ideally when it's flinging a golf disc or flying ring, there is no torque to have to counteract. Problem number 3. When I place a golf disc or flying ring on a platform in the start position, I must move the disc whip carefully so the golf disc or flying ring does not move from the start position or fall from the disc whip. I think I can partly solve this problem by having a small post here to stop any golf disc or flying ring from rolling backward to fall from the disc whip. When I swing this disc whip, it still feels solid and not too heavy. I think I can again increase its length to gain more distance over which to apply force.
So, that's not a disc whip.
After some more thinking, I made a drawing of a third disc whip prototype having those changes. Thanks for viewing. Don't miss the next video in the disc whip flinger video series.